We are back with an amazing tier 10 vehicle, and it is one of my favourites out of all of the tier 10 vehicles in World of Tanks. It's the M60. Now this is a vehicle that is probably not very usually used, I guess, in World of Tanks console, but today's video is going to showcase how powerful this kind of, I guess, less armoured version of an M48 pattern. I guess that's kind of what this vehicle is, but it is a tier 10 premium / reward vehicle. It was released as part of the earn operation where you can pick up the M60 for free. And the M60 is a really good one. It is essentially a more nimble, agile version of the M48 pattern, but it also has a much better gun, or at least a better version of the M48's gun, but in doing so it basically sacrifices every single bit of armour that the M48 has to be able to do so. Now that isn't necessarily a terrible thing, but it definitely feels very good indeed, and I really enjoy playing this vehicle because ultimately in World of Tanks I feel like you start to learn that you should rely less on armour and actually go for tanks that actually can perform better. Most of my favourite vehicles in the game have absolutely no armour whatsoever, and you don't actually really need it. In fact, a lot of the times the limiting factor in you being able to do well is that maybe you've not had the tank with the decent enough kind of rate of fire, or maybe that you've played a few vehicles that aren't as kind of, I don't know, flexible and stuff like that, and that's what's limited your game, as opposed to playing this tank that, yes, you can bounce, you know, 5 rounds and block 5,000 damage from Jaegeroos or something, potentially, which like 99% of the time doesn't happen anyway because of premium rounds, but that's kind of where I'm at with the armour models, and the M60 does definitely not have one. So that's kind of what I want to highlight to you guys. So if you do enjoy the heavy tank gameplay style, or any of the tanks that have armour, or try and get hold down and doing that sort of stuff, then this tank is definitely not for you. But it's going to showcase how you can use it, and you can see here quite easily we've picked up 1600 damage. Now that can't be said that as usual for, I guess, Erlenberg, and because we've kind of gone in this central area. It was a bit of a weird map to match, to be honest with you, because the enemy team had gone one side. It's your typical Kampenberg. One side wins one hill, the other side wins the other hill, and then it's just a fight in the middle to be able to get either view range or actual damage. Now you can see I'm getting a little bit of lag within this game, as with every single Eclipse video, I think, at this point. But yeah, it's kind of annoying to play with, but hopefully that will be getting better soon. Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. But yeah, we're going to be hopefully getting better into that, so fingers crossed about that. But what we'll be doing is, in this gameplay, is I've picked up 2,000 damage, but the game is kind of progressing, and I don't want to be left caught out from not being able to get forward and do something within the game. So what I'm going to do is play potentially a little bit too aggressive in a second, and most of the time this strategy will not work, as we decide that apparently turning around and looking in the opposite direction is a good idea as it lags. So anyway, regardless, we now move forward towards the opponents, and we can hopefully get into a position where we can deal some damage to them, or potentially just get into a bit of a position where we can get some assistance, because what you'll notice about this position up here is that if you can get into it, it's actually really hard for opponents to dig you out, because either they have to come over the top of the hill to take you out, or they have to go up to where the T10 is and expose their basically the whole of their tank to be able to get a shot into you, or they actually have to come right the way over, as with most light tanks. So I guess light tanks are probably the most annoying tanks to kind of come up against, because most people on this game cannot aim, so they don't usually punish the vehicles that you're actually that are YOLOing you, so that can be a little bit of a problem. But you can see here we're just farming the 705A, helping our teammates out on the corner, and yeah, he's obviously can't turn around to deal with us, because as soon as he does that he exposes himself to all of the tanks in front of him on our team, but we can continually punish. You can see now the FV4005 trying to poke me or deal some damage against me, but that's just not going to be okay with us, and we can now turn from the 60 TP to the 50 TP, of course both on the same Polish tank line. This is obviously a little bit of a risky position here because with my lag, and if potentially the FV4005 decides he's just going to come over, or the Batchat AP, which has the autoloader, it could become very, very bad. Now the FV obviously trying to aim at us there, doesn't manage to get a shot into us, so that's always good. And we've typically in this game just been farming damage against loads of different people. The get kind of lucky there against the FV, and then the Batchat AP decides he's going to try and YOLO us as well. Obviously not worth it for him. Acrylam there in the Progetto 46 helps us out and finishes him off and basically punishes him for just YOLOing us. The M48A2 pattern on the enemy team, which is the other tier 10 premium medium tank I guess, also decides to come and try and get into us, but we shut him down with a nice little auto aim at the end and pick up a really, really good result. 212 XP result in the top right, which leads to 1345 base experience, but we get outshone completely by the tier 8, the Progetto 46 player, the Acrylam there, who saved us and also picked up 4,500 damage. And I don't know about combined damage, but yeah, he also had like a really, really good assistance as well, so he picked up nearly 6,500 combined damage, whereas we picked up, what, like 6,700 combined. So yeah, really, really good game from both of us there, and a fantastic one to watch as well. Swiftly moving on into the next gameplay, we have Malinovka, and this is one of the maps that I always feel so confident on when you play in a medium tank with gun depression, and of course the M60 is a medium tank with gun depression, so we're always very, very confident on this map because we know the sorts of positions to go to. I know typically how the game either goes. There's a few scenarios on the game that typically happen. So number one is that nobody on your team goes up the hill, in which point this position right here is not very good. Unfortunately, I'm sorry Barask, but we just got up behind you. It wasn't intentional. If you're watching this, I don't know. But yeah, now this is a position that's really, really good at the start of the game. You probably shouldn't fire from this position because you can get punished really, really badly, as you saw the Barask at the beginning of the game get punished quite badly. And if you do get spotted up here, you've got to move instantly back down the hill and typically I will just move back down the hill instantly after I fire one shell, unless I know I'm not going to get spotted because of some reason, like there's no one actually over there or whatever the reason might be. The Barask on the enemy team decides to be just YOLOing around, not quite sure what he's doing. We try and hit him and unfortunately only bounce off of him, which was a little bit disappointing. And then the LTTB on the enemy team decides he's going to go. You can see me instantly moving back down the hill as we land a shell into him, because there's nothing worse than having a random player on the enemy team just YOLO you. So yeah, even if it meant I took a shell, it would be worth it to help out that medium tank that's down there. It might even be a Cobra that's down there. But in this game, I'm now thinking, there's no one on the hill, and I, to begin with, thought, you know what, maybe we could retreat back and then go in the field and do that sort of play and move in the south side of the map. But then I decided, you know what, I'm just going to go through the middle of the map, because if we can get past this initial station where we don't get hit by any of these chisels or potentially any of the TDs that are sat where the chisel is, then we're going to be fine, because what we can do is as they push down the hill, we can get some side shots into them and stuff like that. And this position in general is really good for spotting a lot of the tanks that are on the hill as well. So you can see here we managed to actually light up two of them, try and get a nice shot into the Malsham, but unfortunately it doesn't actually connect. But this position really, really crucial for a lot of games. If you're playing in your medium tanks, I'm not saying that at the beginning of the game you should ever go here, because, well, you can, but much like that medium at the beginning of the game, which was getting YOLO'd by the LTTB, you can get YOLO'd really, really badly. And actually, where the chisel is on the enemy team, or at least when we spotted him as we crossed, there's usually some TDs, and if they can catch you out as you cross, or you get spotted by a light tank who's maybe in the middle of the map, you can get basically removed from full health in the beginning of the game, which is obviously terrible. And so I always like to play on a bit of the conservative side as to try and avoid just getting taken out at the beginning, because that means you will have done 0 damage, which is obviously not what you want. But In this replay in particular, you can see we're just trying to light up the opponents, keep them spotted, and get some assistance damage for doing that. Now, I'm not saying that we get an amazing amount of assistance in this game, but it enables you to potentially get that, and we can kind of move forward as you'd expect from this position. Obviously, being aware of the Malshan, being aware of people that may be on the hill, whilst also, yeah, getting some shots into whoever it might be over here. The one tank that we're a little bit scared of on the enemy team is, of course, the Cobra, because much like I said in the first replay, this tank does not have any armour, which means if you do get hit, you're going to take a big old hit. And with the FV4005 also at the back, yeah, it could be quite painful indeed if we do actually get hit. Now, this tank has got brilliant accuracy, and by brilliant I mean it's absolutely insane how good the accuracy is, which means you can do shots like that on the Malshan, hitting cupolas and stuff whilst on the move, or whilst not actually fully aiming, because the dispersion's really good. You can see from here we're kind of a little bit hesitant as to what we're going to do, because our team don't seem to be actually moving. The person who's on top of the hill doesn't want to give us a hand or just get into a position to actually hit anyone. I know that there's an FV4005, which obviously can be a reason why you wouldn't want to push down the hill, but at this point this is where most of the people kind of start just, I don't know, getting confused as to what they should do. Sometimes you do actually have to move, even if a position's been amazing for the beginning half of the game. After a while, it becomes like pointless because you're just sat in an area where you're doing nothing. So yeah, sometimes you do actually have to move, unfortunately, on World of Tanks. So obviously my team isn't getting that from this position. You could probably see in the bottom right hand corner, if you skip back a bit, they're probably still in the same sort of positions as they were a minute or two ago in this replay. But we're kind of a little bit hesitant to push around this corner because we have no idea if the FV4005, who in the process of us moving to this position has actually moved down to help this medium tank out. So if we go around the corner and he's sat there pre-aimed, that could be awful. And we also don't want to get caught up by the artillery, who could quite easily hit us in this sort of position. Now the Chisel itself, try and get a nice little round into the cupola there, obviously hitting the very angled part of the cupola, meaning we don't actually pen, and therefore we're a little bit hesitant as to know what to do. Now the Bourrasque on the enemy team decides that, you know what, he's going to try and YOLO me, which we absolutely hate, and bye bye Bourrasque, you absolute rat. You can go back to the garage for doing that. That was a very silly play by him, to be honest. I would not have gone round that corner. We then try and go round and just get some damage into the Chisel. I'm now trying to just get rid of some of the hit points off of this WZ, because he's the one that's kind of holding up our team, or the heavies on our team, so I want to make sure that they get out. The Chisel I then set on fire, which I feel kind of bad about, but nonetheless I'll take it. And of course we pick up a decent chunk of damage against both of those vehicles, and then it's just a case of trying to find the artillery piece, who we do successfully land a HE round into the side of him for 484 damage, bringing the grand total damage result up to a kind of, I guess, mediocre damage of 4,252 damage, but also 1,500 assistance, meaning 5.7 combined damage, which is okay, and it would definitely get you up on your third mark of excellence if you had a game like this. So hopefully both of these games have showcased the power and actually the great DPM of the M60, but also showcased that the armour model sucks, and if you are a heavy tank player or someone that relies on armour, then I would not be using the M60 any day of the week. But as with the Tier 10 Premium series, you can check out some of the other ones in this series, where we're looking at all of the Tier 10 Premium / reward vehicles that have been in World of Tanks, including the 279E, including the 260. We've got a load of other ones as well, so you can have a look at those, and I hope I'll join you there. Thank you very much for watching this one, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.